All right, so today we're going to talk about equilibrium, and I really, really love this quote by Muhammad Ali, which is, "I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now, and live the rest of your life as a champion." To me, that encapsulates AP chemistry. It's important for you guys to suffer now with the studying, the workload, the intensity, because once you get your score, no one can take that away from you. So I'm going to go and skip ahead to this slide here. So this slide here, we have a reaction. And what's going to happen is you have the reactants on one side, products on the other. You guys see some of the reactants are turning into products, and then the products are going to increase, and then they kind of like level off a little bit in the graph. When you move ahead, you can kind of see that in this leveling off period, you're still getting reactants going to products and products going to reactants, but it pretty much levels. And so from roughly here on, we're at a state of equilibrium. Okay? And that's an important state to be in for that. So what's going to happen is at equilibrium is going to be what's called K, and then Q is at your current position. So you can indicate where are you at, and that can tell you where the reaction is going to go, because the goal of the reaction is always to get back to equilibrium. So look at the K numbers. If K is really, really big, so much bigger than 1, 1 or bigger, you would anticipate you're going to have more products than reactants. And the bigger the K, the more products to reactants that you have. On the flip side, if K is less than 1, no matter how small it is, you're going to have more reactants and fewer products. And to calculate K, it's always going to be the concentration of products over the concentration of reactants. And how does that work? So in this balanced equation here, I have a coefficient in front of A, a coefficient in front of B, C, and D. What K is going to be, as long as these are gases, are aqueous, you're going to turn the coefficient into a power. So you'll have concentration of A, power of A, concentration of B, power of B, so on and so forth. So you look at this equation here, we have CO gas, Cl2 gas going to CO, Cl2 gas. And when you convert that into an equilibrium, you're going to put the products on top, such as this, and then the reactants are going to go on bottom. And these brackets here indicate concentration. That's what we're looking for, the concentration of these items, with this bracket up here, this bracket up here. And then when we do that, we find out that the K is actually 4.57 times 10 to the ninth. I did not give you data, but if I did this reaction and gave you guys data, this is what you would generate for K, and that this one's going to be heavy, heavy, heavy on the product side because of just how big the K is. So when it comes to looking at Q versus K, that I talked about briefly, if the Q is less than the K, the reaction has to shift to the right. If Q is much bigger than K, it's going to shift to the left. And if Q is equal to K, we're at equilibrium. So if Q is 6.2 and K is 1.2, the best thing to do is to line it up. So have a number line, put it in order, and 1.2 is going to be here. 6.2 is going to be here. We always are going to move in the direction from Q to K. So Q here is K is here. We're going to move this way. So the reaction has to shift to the left or to the reactant side. So let's look at this equation here. We have 2NO, 2H2 going to N2 and 2H2O. What's going to happen is when we shift that into place, we'll put the products in parentheses or in brackets, H2O in brackets with a power of 2. We have NO in brackets with a power of 2 and H2 in brackets with a power of 2. Then what's going to happen is that when you set this up, as long as when you're given the initial items, that will help you determine what's going to happen in the equation. So what's going to occur on this one, if you look at this, if you set these values into the equation, your Q is going to be 0 because we literally have no products at all. Then we let it go to equilibrium. This is the concentration. And when you plug that in to this equation here, you're going to get a K of 650. Well, because Q is much less than K, it has to move to the right. And all we're going to do is generate products. And that makes sense. If we start with no products and we're going to have products, it has to shift to the right. So again, just to finalize this chart here is important, knowing what happens with K and Q. This chart here is important, knowing what happens with products and reactants. So if you look at this one here, we have hydrogen, we have nitrogen, we have ammonia. We have no ammonia at the beginning. We let this reaction proceed. Again, you're going to get to equilibrium at this point. And at equilibrium, you have this equation here, where K equals NH3 squared over N2 times H2 cubed. And then this is at equilibrium. Here's the points here. Then what's going to happen is K will equal NH3 squared, N2 and H2 cubed. What will happen is then you'll do this one squared over here, this and this over here. And then when you do the calculation, once everything's cubed and squared, you're going to get 0.0602. For Le Chatelier's principle, what's going to happen is you have reactants and products, and you're going to influence the reaction, and the reaction is going to move in the opposite direction. So what's going to happen here is if you have more reactants that you add after it's in equilibrium, it's out of balance, the reaction wants to go the opposite direction, so it's going to move to the product side, and we're going to get movement to the right. Now, how this looks at the molecular level, so here is some nitrogen, hydrogen, and ammonia, and let's say we add a bunch of hydrogen to this. Well, we have too much hydrogen we need, and so to eliminate some of the hydrogen, we're going to create more ammonia to shift the reaction to the right, and that's what you have. So looking at this from a graphical standpoint, here we are at equilibrium. I throw in a bunch of hydrogen here, and then we're going to reestablish a new equilibrium, has some of the hydrogens consumed. We're going to get a little bit more ammonia and a little bit less nitrogen, and now this will be our new equilibrium, based upon the new concentrations we've been provided. And again, these next slides here just demonstrate that. Equilibrium here, and then this looks like this. We add a bunch of hydrogen. You can see there's more hydrogen molecules. Then we're going to establish a new equilibrium. This can work with pressure too. So for instance, you look at pressure over volume, N2O4 is colorless, 2NO2 is reddish brown. What's going to happen is if you increase the pressure, what's going to occur is that it's going to want to, if you basically increase the pressure, what's going to happen is it's going to initially turn red as you increase the pressure, but then to decrease the pressure, because this is 1 mole and this is 2, it's going to go back to being clear. So what happens is we're at equilibrium here. We increase the pressure, it's going to turn a little bit red. And then because there's 1 mole over here and 2 moles over here, we're going to move a little bit back to the clear, and then we're good. So here you can kind of see this, how this is set up. And then again, we have colorless, reddish brown, and delta H is over here. So again, this is delta H is heat and heat energy to make that happen. If you have a positive delta H, it's always going to go on the reactant side. Negative will go on the product side. So this is what this looks like. If we heat this up, you would anticipate that it's going to go from colorless to more red, to more red, to more red, to more red. Because you heat it up, it's going to go the other way. And because it's endothermic to get heat in, once you go to the red, it's going to be giving heat off. So next slide here shows N2 and 3H2 and 2NH3. This is exothermic. And I want you guys to think about how you would influence the concentration, the volume pressure, and the temperature. We'll talk about the slide in class, but at least think about that for when we do discuss it and have that ready to go. This is showing red blood cells. Red blood cells basically are a buffer. So if your blood's slightly acidic from the food you eat initially or slightly basic, your buffer system will work and it'll move it back into tandem. So, and buffers want balance. So what's going to happen is that we have balance and we have HA and A. If I dump a bunch of HA in there, it's going to go back to getting us HA by getting rid of this free H. And if we dump a bunch of OH, we're going to disassociate to get A minus to again balance that out. And again, acid constants we'll talk a lot when we get to acid bases. So HA will break down to get H and A minus, and then Ka will be H plus over A minus over HA. H plus times A minus divided by HA. And then this here, when you have this HA and K, this is how you kind of set everything up into a pH. And so pH will basically equal pK for that. And then good buffers will have this happen. We're going to have a weak acid over a conjugate base to occur. And then again, if the pH is less than pK, you're going to have more acid. If the pH is greater than pK, you're going to have more base. So do you look at this one here, how indicators work? It depends on switching it from an acid to base. We talked about our friend NAPS. Again, it's coming up again, nitrates, ammonium, potassium, and sodium. So for KSP math, this is what you need to know. If you have x times x, that's going to be x squared. You have 2x times x, that's going to be 2x2. You have 2x times x squared, that's going to be 2x3, because this will be x squared times this will be 2x cubed. And then what's going to happen, you have 2x squared times x. When you distribute this through, that's going to be 4x squared times x to get us 4x cubed. For solubility product, which is KSPs in there, what's going to happen is you'll start with the solid. It'll break down to get us Ca2 plus and 2F minus. KSP will be Ca2 plus and F minus squared. So first thing I want you guys to do is here are two examples and pause the video, and I want you to write out KSP equations. Again, the only thing that will be in the equation is aqueous and gases. No solids, no liquids. So pause the video, do these two examples, and I'll show you what it should look like for KSP. Okay, so for the first one here, the reactants of solids, so that will not be in the equation. We'll have Ag, and that'll be squared. We'll have CrO4, and that'll just be 1. And then CuI, we'll get a Cu and I, so it'll be Cu plus and then I minus. So the AgCl is equilibrium. You can see the small KSP. So AgCl is generally considered insoluble because of how small that is. So if we want to know what are the concentrations of the Ag and Cl, these are the steps you'll take. So the KSP is Ag and Cl. If I gave you that the KSP is 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th, you'll have 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th Ag times Cl. Then 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th will be x times x. 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th equals x squared, because again, x times x is x squared. When we square root this, you're going to get x to be 1.3 times 10 to the negative 5th molarity, which will equal x, which will equal the individual concentrations for the silver and the chlorine. So we have KSP for AgCl, 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th. What are the concentrations of Ag and Cl? So x is the same. X squared will be 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th. So you screw that, you get 1.3. So again, since these are equal, you would anticipate 1.3 times 10 to the negative 10th. Now for this one, if you add 0.10 moles of sodium chloride to the AgCl solution, what will happen to the sodium chloride? Well, will this influence the KSP? Why or why not? The answer is it will. The NaCl will completely dissolve because it's NaCl, and that will push the KSP. So if you add that, will this influence? Yes, it'll influence because of the extra Cl, and this is called the common ion effect. So if you add Cl ions, how will that affect the AgCl? More Cl comes out from NaCl, but not AgCl. Two salt solutions with the same common ion, the salt with the lower KSP will precipitate first. So if you look at this equation again, we've done this, and without the added NaCl, the concentration of Ag would be 1.3 times 10 to the negative 10th. But now what's going to happen is we know Ag is what we're trying to find, and the concentration of Cl is 0.10, and that's going to equal this KSP. So then I'm going to take 1.6 times 10 to the negative 10th divided by 0.10 to get that. When I do that, I get 1.6 times 10 to the negative 9th, and that's the number of Ag ions in solution. And again, you can see this is much lower than this, so therefore the Ag ions are going to drop dramatically, and that's going to influence the solubility. Here's this item here. We have Ag2, silver chromate. The KSP is 8.0 times 10 to the negative 12th. I want you to write this out, write out the equation for the equation equilibrium, go and pause the video and do that, and then I'll restart it. All right, Ag2, when you write out the equation, you will break this up. You'll have 2 silvers and 1 chromate. And the equilibrium constant of KSP, you'll have silver with a power of 2 over times chromate. Both of those in there. And then for the molar solubility, what are molar solubilities for silver and chromate? The KSP is 8.0 times 10 to the negative 12th. KSP, again, you'll have 2 silvers squared times the chromate. So therefore, when you do this, you're going to take the 2x squared x and make 4x cubed over this. Then what's going to happen is we'll have to do the cube root to get 1.3 times 10 to the negative 4th. And then the concentration of chromate is 1.3 times 10 to the negative 4th. The Ag is 2.6 times 10 to the negative 4th. And then what's going to happen is you're going to plug this into the equation to get the new value from that. And just as a reminder, once you have an equilibrium equation and you have values, you can plug those in. So this is just a reminder, this is the equation for nitrogen plus hydrogen giving us ammonia, and this is concentrations for that, and you plug that in. This is the K value for this. Okay, that was an overview. We'll spend time going through this in class and go from there.